The Adventures of Captain Underpants. Meet George Beard and Harold Hutchkins. George is the kid on the left with the tie and flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and bad haircut. Remember that now. George and Harold were best friends. They had a lot in common. They lived right next door to each other, and they were both both in the same fourth grade class at Jerome Horitz Elementary School. George and Harold were usually responsible kids. Whenever anything bad happened, George and Harold were usually responsible. But don't get the wrong idea about these two. George and Harold are actually very nice boys. No matter what everybody else thought, they were good, sweet, and lovable. Well, okay, maybe they weren't so sweet and lovable, but they were good nonetheless. It's just that George and Harold each had a silly streak, a mile long. Usually that silly streak was hard to control. Sometimes it got them into big trouble. And once it got them into big trouble. But before I can tell you about that story, I have to tell you about this story. Chapter 2, Treehouse Comics, Inc. After a hard day of cracking jokes, pulling pranks, and causing mayhem at school, George and Harold liked to rush to the old treehouse in George's backyard. Inside the treehouse were two big, old, fluffy chairs, a table, a cupboard crammed with junk food, a padlocked crate filled with pencils, pens, and stacks of paper. Now, Harold loved to draw, and George loved to make up stories, and together the two boys spent hours and hours writing and drawing their very own comic books. Over the years, they had created hundreds of their own comics, starring dozens of their own superheroes. First there was Dog Man, then came Timmy the Talking Toilet, and who could forget the Amazing Cow Lady? But the all-time greatest superhero they ever made up had to be the amazing Captain Underpants. George came up with the idea. Most superheroes look like they're flying around in their underwear, he said. Well, this guy actually is flying around in his underwear. The two boys laughed and laughed. Yeah, said Harold. He could fight with wedgie power. George and Harold spent entire afternoons writing and drawing the comic adventures of Captain Underpants. He was their coolest superhero ever. Lucky for the boys, the secretary at Jerome Horitz Elementary School was much too busy to keep an eye on the copy machine. So whenever they got a chance, Harold and George would sneak into the office and run off several hundred copies of their last Captain Underpants adventure. After school, they sold their homemade comics on the playground for 50 cents each. Chapter 3, The Adventures of Captain Underpants. The Really Cool Adventures of Captain Underpants, written by George Bale, drawn by Harold Hutchkins. It was time of darkness and despair for planet Earth. Bad guys had taken over the streets, and all the superheroes in the world were too old to fight evil. Hey! Ha ha! Then along came a new, extra-strength superhero. Tra-la-la! Look in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's an egg salad sandwich. No way. I'm Captain Underpants. Captain Underpants is faster than a speeding waistband, more powerful than boxer shorts, and able to leap tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Tra-la-la! Night and day, Captain Underpants watched over the city, fighting for truth, justice, and all that pre-shrunken cottony. Meanwhile, at a nearby elementary school, it was Stinky Taco Surprise Day at the cafeteria. Yuck. Everybody hated it so much they all threw it away. Soon the cafeteria food came to life. I'm the Incredible Hunk. The monster ran around eating everything in sight. Munch. Hell, the Incredible Hunk ate up 15 folding chairs and the gym teacher. Oh no, not the folding chairs. This looks like a job for tra-la-la Captain Underpants. Captain Underpants shot lots of underwear at the monster, but it didn't do any good. Zip, munch, munch. So Captain Underpants took off running. The unbeatable hunk chased him. Grrr, help! And chased him. Finally, the incredible hunk got too tired and thirsty to chase Captain Underpants. How about a nice drink of water? So the monster took a long drink of a shiny white bowl. Gulp, gulp. When suddenly, flush! Hooray for Captain Underpants! And so the incredible hunk got flushed away and was never heard from again. Tra-la-la! The end of George and Harold's comic book. Don't miss our next exciting adventure. Captain Underpants and the Talking Toilets. Coming soon to a playground near you. And that's it for today. See you tomorrow, I guess.